You never see it coming. It could be bad timing, bad judgment, or just bad luck. But in an instant, your life changes. Our first case in point involves a late night, too much partying, and a fateful encounter.
Now, what happened that night between a beautiful young woman and a man she didn't know would raise all kinds of questions about truth, justice, and what it takes to do the right thing.
Everything in life, even if you don't understand it now, happens for a reason.
Biurny Peguero is a quiet, somewhat vulnerable soul. She's only 27 years old, but she's already been through enough challenges and tragedy to last a lifetime.
But I always said to God, I'm willing to take whatever you give me, because whatever happens is the best for me.
The story of what happened begins on the streets of New York City on a Saturday night in the summer of 2005. Biurny's enjoying a girls' night out. As usual, she's with Aurora Pujols, a best friend who's really more like an older sister.
We were having a really good time.
Really good time?
Dancing, drinking, having fun.
To be blunt, the girls get wasted.
I drink like 5 Blue Hawaiians.
5 is a lot.
5 is a lot.
So you're drunk.
Definitely drunk.
As the night winds down, Biurny and Aurora are sitting in Aurora's car while their friends pick up food from this restaurant. A group of men cruising for action pulls up next to them, inviting them to a party. Suddenly, one of them jumps into the car.
I remember being in shock because this guy just opens the car door and walks into the car.
He's inviting us to an after party.
What'd you think of him?
A crazy guy. Get into my car without permission.
The situation is a powder keg, so Aurora scrambles out of the car and joins her friends in the restaurant. She expects Biurny to come with her, but instead, Biurny takes off in her friend's car.
I was drunk, so I took the car and I drove.
We walk back out and the car's not there.
Biurny leaves the car at a nearby parking lot and piles into a white van with the stranger and his friends. They spend an hour driving around, searching in vain for the party.
I got scared in my way there because I thought something was gonna happen. So I started crying and crying and crying.
Biurny's friends, left high and dry, tried desperately to call her cell phone. Finally, they make contact and reunite with Biurny and the car back at the parking lot. When they find her there,
Her hair was all crazy. Her mascara was all runny. She looked like she had been in a struggle.
Aurora and the girls are angry they'd been ditched. Biurny feels cornered and doesn't know what to do. Tensions are high. And then,
Out of nowhere, she lashed out at me.
We got into a physical fight, which I started it.
the fight is an out-and-out brawl. The girls even crack the windshield.
And this is totally out of character for her.
Totally out of character.
This is not
for her.
how she is.
No.
Aurora is furious and stunned, but the mood changes when Biurny explains why she's acting this way. She says something terrible happened with the stranger in the back of the van.
He pulled off my pants. He was hitting me, and he raped me.
Were you screaming for him to stop?
Yes, I did.
When did it stop?
When he finished.
She had been raped. And I'm like feeling like horrible, like just in shock.
The girls, enraged just moments before, are now totally sympathetic. They drive Biurny to this hospital. She relays her account to the staff there, and they perform a rape kit. Detectives from the NYPD Special Victims Squad start investigating. Biurny repeats to them her nightmare of being brutally raped. Then, in short order, they track down the white van and the guy who'd first jumped in the girl's car, a 28-year-old contractor named William McCaffrey.
Why did you think the police want to speak to you?
I had no idea, but I know I didn't do anything, so I had no problem going into the precinct.
McCaffrey tells the police he and his pals did cruise around with Biurny in the van, then left her back at her car, drunk but unharmed. His denials are absolute and unflinching.
Did you rape Biurny?
Of course not.
Did you assault Biurny?
No, I did not.
Did you give her any reason to believe that you were a threat to her?
Not at all.
Supporting McCaffrey's claims, the rape kit comes back negative. The strongest evidence of a physical attack police have is a bite mark on Biurny's shoulder. But still, if it comes down to a he said, she said, the cops are probably going to accept what she said.
Do they seem like they believe you?
Not at all.
But police have reason to be suspicious. McCaffrey's been arrested numerous times for petty offenses like DUI and assault. On the other hand, Biurny couldn't be more credible. She sticks to her story. She's traumatized and doesn't hesitate to take the morning after pill offered by the hospital.
I have to take these pills because I cannot get no infection. I cannot get pregnant.
What happened at the end of the meeting?
I was charged with rape in the first degree.
McCaffrey maintains his innocence up and through the trial, even taking the stand to defend himself. Biurny maintains his guilt, and almost solely on the basis of her emotional testimony, the jury votes to convict.
When you heard the word guilty, how'd you take it?
Terribly. I thought about my sons and if I was gonna make it to see my grandmother, or would I have to bury her from prison?
The sentence, swift and severe.
They told me he got convicted, 20 years.
20 years. What do you think?
I start crying. I just want to get home, be by myself. Oh my God.
It seems the case is closed. Justice has been served and Biurny can start rebuilding her life.
She felt relieved. Finally, something going right for her.
With the ordeal of the trial behind her, Biurny Peguero is ready to end her life as a rape victim and start again as a wife and mother.
My life keep going on with my child, my husband.
Biurny settles into a stable family life in New Jersey with her new husband, Julio Mejia, her son Gabriel, and a steady job.
I married her because I feel like she's a special person. She's a nice person. She's a responsible girl.
She's back to her normal self, acting the way that she always is, happy.
William McCaffrey, on the other hand, is in New York's notorious Sing Sing prison, dealing with a rape rap, not the most popular of crimes on the inside.
You're always looking over your shoulder.
People try to beat you up in prison?
Of course. I was up the river. Literally.
When McCaffrey's not fighting for his life, he's fighting for his freedom, with the help of attorney Glenn Garber, head of a New York nonprofit called the Exoneration Initiative.
We're doing what we can to help a lot of people who've been forgotten and are languishing in jail.
Garber thinks the case against McCaffrey is thin. Remember, the rape kit had come back negative. The prosecution won relying largely on Biurny's testimony and McCaffrey's questionable past.
At the trial, the judge allowed them to go into his criminal history again, and they hammered it.
Garber focuses on the only real piece of physical evidence, specifically those bite marks found on Biurny's shoulder. After months of legal wrangling, he convinces the prosecution to agree to a DNA test.
The DNA came back and showed that there was female saliva on her arm and that there was no male saliva. That was a bombshell for us.
Because you are a lot of things, but one of them is not a woman.
Yes.
So it couldn't have been you.
At all.
The tests also exclude Biurny, meaning the marks were made by another female, most likely during that strange fight with Aurora.
And we thought that the prosecutor was going to say, yes, it's true, we made a mistake, an innocent man is in jail.
But it doesn't play that way. The prosecution argues the DNA could have been left by tears shed by the other girls while they were comforting Biurny.
That seemed to be a preposterous story to me, but Mr. McCaffrey was not going to walk out of jail based on this evidence.
More than 2 years would go by and McCaffrey was behind bars serving his sentence. Biurny was out enjoying the freedom of family and friends, but it would turn out she wasn't free at all. Biurny was in a prison of her own.
Every time I see something in the news about raping, every time I see something about jail, this comes in my mind. And then here I am crying.
She starts to become distraught. She's not as outgoing. She doesn't want to do the same things anymore.
My husband was questioning me, why you always crying? What's wrong?
I cannot even touch her before. She was just crying and this and that. That's because she feel guilty what happened with the guy.
Depression, anxiety, sleeplessness, all the symptoms of a troubled conscience. And it just keeps getting worse.
And nothing was gonna change for me. Nothing was gonna change. So I need to make a change.
That change, a new and powerful commitment to her faith in God.
She was drawn into the Catholic Church. She started to become active in a prayer group. She finally got up the courage to go to confession.
At last, in the confessional at this New Jersey church, Biurny reveals the secret which has been tormenting her.
What do you say?
I told the priest that there was somebody in jail because I lied. I said he raped me when he didn't.
That's right. William McCaffrey never raped Biurny Peguero. And Biurny's accusations repeated to friends, the hospital staff, the police, the prosecutors, and the jury, all of it lies.
Why do you think?
I don't know how that lie became so big. I don't know why. I don't know. I didn't want to say it didn't happen because I thought he wasn't going to be convicted because there's no evidence.
They gave you a morning after pill.
Yes.
You took it.
Yes.
Why?
I believe my lie. Otherwise, I could have just thrown the pills in the toilet. Nobody would have known about it. But I decided to take it because in my room, by myself, I believe that happened to me.
But she knows that now she has to make it right. The priest recommends talking to a lawyer, so Biurny goes to attorney Paul Callan with her startling story.
She said basically, I've done a terrible thing. You have to get this man out of jail. Turn me into the district attorney. I've done something wrong. I deserve to be punished.
How rare is it for someone to recant in this way?
It is absolutely 100% unheard of.
To lie about something like this and send a man to jail makes Biurny seem like a very bad person. Why is that not a fair appraisal?
It is a fair appraisal if you just look at this thing superficially.
Beneath the surface, says Callan, there's a lot from Biurny's past to explain her behavior. She's originally from a broken and abusive home in the Dominican Republic.
She was essentially abandoned by her own family and grew up largely in the streets. Her psychological situation is very, very different from the average person's.
Callan says with few solid relationships, Biurny was terrified of losing her friendship with Aurora, the big sister figure with whom she'd had that fight. A fight which he says is the key to understanding the whole story.
She was just mad at me.
But when you told the lie to her the first time that night, she was then not mad at you anymore.
She was not mad at me anymore because she felt sorry for me.
And you wanted that.
And that's what I wanted from the beginning.
She viewed this group of friends as her family. And many people tell all kinds of lies and do all kinds of terrible things to keep in good stead with their families.
Could you have ever imagined what was really going on in her mind?
Never. Never in a million years. Ever.
She said she was raped so that you wouldn't be upset at her anymore.
She said that to me, and I explained to her that there's nothing that she could ever do that would make me not be her friend.
Eventually, news reaches the man imprisoned by Biurny's lies. For William McCaffrey, her confession is an act of God.
Could you believe it?
Not at all. This is what I prayed for, you know. I looked at it like as a blessing. More people need to come forward and tell the truth.
But incredibly, the truth does not set him free. Even after hearing Biurny's recantation, the prosecution refuses to acknowledge they've put an innocent man behind bars.
You don't want to admit that you made a mistake. And they simply did not want to accept that McCaffrey was innocent.
They were very frustrated in how they were acting. You have a man who was languishing in jail, and it was just dragging on.
The DA won't budge. So now, to make things right and clear her conscience, Biurny will have to make a terrible sacrifice.
I don't care what happens to me. I just need to take McCaffrey out of jail.
Biurny Peguero lied when she accused William McCaffrey of rape. Now she's come clean, but ironically, she has a harder time getting McCaffrey out of jail than she did putting him in. Her lies more believable than the truth.
There was no way that that could be true.
You thought that she was losing it.
I even thought that maybe somebody was, blackmailing her.
Pressuring her.
Or offering her something.
The district attorney's office thinks the same thing.
The prosecutors didn't want to believe this in the first instance. I produced Biurny's bank records to show she had not been bribed. They then went and they checked McCaffrey's telephone records to see if he had been calling friends from prison to put pressure on Biurny. None of that panned out.
Biurny has to spend 6 months insisting the rape never happened. Finally, in August 2009, a judge frees William McCaffrey from prison. After wasting nearly 4 years of his young life locked up for a crime which never occurred, McCaffrey is reunited with his family.
Thank God. He's home.
Could you believe it?
It's surreal, I was just happy that I was going to be able to be home, eat dinner with my family.
What were you thinking to yourself on the way out?
My name is finally going to be able to be cleared.
When you found out he was going to be free, what did that mean?
Oh my God. First, it was a release for me that he was gonna be out. Then I started hearing from my lawyer that he's fine, that he went back to work. That's what I wanted to happen.
McCaffrey's conviction is overturned, and the court apologizes for the injustice.
Who did you blame?
I did blame the system, the district attorney, the arresting officers. You would think that, after all of that time, and them being professionals, that they'd be able to do, a little bit better job.
The lesson to be learned is you don't accept what people say at face value. And if that is going to make it more difficult for prosecutors to prosecute, then it just means that they have to work harder and they have to scrutinize their witnesses better.
Now, it is Biurny's turn to face the wrath of the New York DA. After all, she's committed a terrible perjury. Still, her lawyer asks for mercy.
Biurny was a woman with no prior criminal record, and she had had the courage to come forward.
She's had so many chances to correct it, though, before the guy went to jail, where she could have made things right. She didn't.
But it's not unusual when you tell the lie the first time, and then you repeat it to the police, and you repeat it under oath. It's almost impossible to get a witness to back out because the consequences are too great.
And then the stakes get even higher. Just a month before her sentencing, Biurny gives birth to her second son, Daniel.
My son, oh my God, he's everything.
But despite all that, the court has a hardened heart.
And where are we doing this interview?
In jail.
And how long are you going to be here?
They gave me 1 to 3 years.
Lying about rape is very hard to accept for a lot of people because so many women get raped and are afraid to come forward because they'll feel they won't be believed. Then a story comes out about somebody saying they got raped and they lied about it.
It makes it worse.
It makes it worse. What do you think of that? You're that person.
I feel horrible about that.
Biurny says she's sustained inside by her enduring faith and by frequent phone calls to her family.
That's Mommy on the phone.
Mommy!
You want to talk to Mommy?
Yeah.
1 second, baby.
Hi, Mom. I miss my mom because I wanted her to come back and then to stay like a normal family.
Throughout the ordeal, Biurny's husband, Julio, has stood by her side.
It was incredible, but my husband never judged me, not even for a minute.
I think she can deserve to get a second chance like everybody else. I just want her to come out from there as soon as possible.
Justice was done. And it was done because I think of her affiliation with the Catholic Church. So at a time when the church is being trashed throughout the world, I think this is a story of redemption having been found in the church. She has undergone some kind of a spiritual awakening that has caused her to try to do the right thing in this case at great, great personal cost.
And that cost could get even greater. With a felony conviction, Biurny is now at risk of being deported back to the Dominican Republic, torn from her family.
Do you still cry?
I do for my kids.
Why?
Because they're blameless. They don't deserve to be away from me. And because of my mistakes, they have to go through that.
If you hadn't said anything, you'd be home right now.
I know, I don't regret it.
You'd be with your kids right now.
I understand, but I don't regret it because I see the truth. I did what I had to do. If I have God in my heart the way I have it, there's no way for me not to feel this peace that I feel now.
You're at peace?
Yeah,
in prison?
In peace, yeah.
William McCaffrey has found a measure of peace as well. Despite all his needless suffering, he is still capable of an act of grace, forgiving Biurny Peguero.
I just wish her well.
How could you have not been consumed with hate for the person that put you there?
You know, hate's not a good thing, you know. It kind of contaminates everything in your life. So if you end up hating, you know, everything else is going to go wrong. You got to forgive.
So how could a case have gotten so far on so little evidence? That is a good question, and it's one that the district attorney might be able to help answer, but the office didn't respond to our repeated requests for an interview. So we'll leave it up to you. What do you think of Biurny? Has she redeemed herself in this situation? Should she still be deported? Weigh in on our webpage at abcnews.com.